So today, what I'm going to be talking about is English Weiss prices. And this is one of those fun pictures that when I opened Facebook, I was like, oh great, another one of these. This is awesome. And my biggest problem with this is the fact that no one ever specifically says what prices they're even talking about. Are you talking about SPs? Are you talking about booster boxes? Are you talking about double rares, right? Like the whole thing. Like what's the deal? And what it always comes down to in the end is people go, oh, it's JKTCG. They're not here. I'm like, seriously? Is that your answer to this? Is that JKTCG not existing is your reality on why English prices aren't right? I mean, come on. So that is what we are going to be talking about. Change. A story about JKTCG and TCG Player. And I wore a special shirt. This is Everything Ends. It was a band that my friend in college, she managed over, and they were pretty good. And I like this shirt. So it's all nice and fancy. You can check it out. But change. Change is one of those hard things for people to deal with. And I stole this from a website because it's just easier to steal, right? So we live in one of the most exciting times in the history of the world. And when I read through this, I'm like, this could be talking about anything. So let's apply this thing to Weiss. It is exciting because of the rapidity of change. Most other periods of time throughout history, there was little change that could be observed in a person's lifetime. However, what is exciting can also be frightening, confusing, and stressful. Human beings seem to be hardwired to resist change, and some people find change more difficult than others. Even minor changes can be disconcerting for those people. And I will tell you, in my corporate world, anyways, change is a big consideration when they hire people and even on giving raises, promotions, all of that. Because it's one person's ability to change is what makes them more marketable, right? So we don't want somebody that is hardwired for 20 years of doing it one way. Because as we know, competitors come out of nowhere, disrupt the market, and you need somebody that's going to be able to adapt to that, come up with new ideas. We don't want people just coming in every day and complaining about it that, oh, we've been doing this, we're fine, we should just keep doing it. If we make this change, it's going to be so much of a pain in the butt for me and whoever else, right? We don't need that. We need to move on and adapt. And that is what is happening here with the lack of JKTCG and now us having TCG Player. All right, so let me just give you a few examples of change. This is the one I struggled with. So my old computer had Windows 7, and they kept popping up with that upgrade to Windows 10 for free and all of that jazz. And I was resistant to change. I never wanted to do it, and you know what? I ended up not doing it because I didn't want to go to Windows 10. And the other side was I didn't want to clean up my hard drive. But I didn't want to do that. And then now what is that computer doing? It's sitting in the basement, not being used because it's on Windows 7, which is not going to get any more upgrades, right? I have this new computer. I mean, I've had it for like 3 years, but I have this computer. It's on Windows 10. I use it. I have no problems with it. So what was me of 3 years ago thinking when I could have just upgraded to Windows 10 for free, right? I was resistant to change, and because of that, I had to buy a new computer. Next thing is we have Windows versus Mac. So at college, we had a computer lab. 90% of the computers back then in that lab were Windows based. And then we had 10% that was Mac. And the people that had to use the Mac ones were the people that got to the lab late. It was all full, so then they ended up using that and had no idea how to use this. That was me a couple times. So I had no clue how to use that thing, and I still don't know to this day how to use it. Though my wife and my sister actually have Macs, and my brother actually. So I think the majority of people, family wise, have actual Macs. and I'm left in the dust with Windows. But in the end, I like Windows. I don't care. I haven't had a problem with it. I could play video games where they can't. So jokes on them. Here's another one. This is gonna be me later in life. So always, I've had this thought in my head that I'm going to die with a cheeseburger in my hand, and it's not literal. My whole thinking here is, you work out, you live your life, you work, and then you work out, keep your body in shape. At the very end of the road, I want to eat all the horrible things. I mean, I've been eating horrible things, but I want to make sure I keep eating those horrible things. But as we know, if you've had anybody older in your life, they've had to change their diet, like towards the end, because they want to live longer. You want this, you want more years on your life. So instead of having a heart attack, you're going to eat that piece of broccoli, right? You're not going to eat that cheeseburger. And I think that is a hard change that people are resistant to. You don't want to change your diet. You're just trying to live out your golden years, right? But you have to eat that vegetable. And that'll be me fighting that piece of broccoli. And now we got this. We got TCG Player and JKTCG. And I want you to think about this for a second. What did JKTCG offer, right, that TCG Player does not? We're going to find out. So, the purpose of JKTCG, they had two purposes. And if you're wondering where I got this, it is on this YouTube video. I'm going to bring it up real quick. I'm not going to play it. I could play it, but I'm not. I don't think it's right to do that. So I'm just going to flash this here. You'll see it is called JKTCG Closure Q&A. It is 4 hours and 20 minutes long, right? So if you want a whole lot of knowledge about JKTCG, if you want to, hear from the man himself that ran this thing, you will definitely want to check this out. It was chock full of information. I think it's good for anybody to hear that is wondering about prices, his thoughts, all of it. Like, why even close? So, again, going back to this, the purpose of JKTCG, and for anybody that's new that actually watches this, because I know there's a few people that watch me that are newer to the Weiss community, so let me just explain this. JKTCG was a website, actually a store, that offered sealed product of Weiss. They also offered singles. So the purpose of JKTCG was to grow the community, and the two ways of doing that. One, by selling sealed product at a low cost, right? They were able to offer a lower cost. They could have lowered it as well, but they kept it at a certain level for the majority of the time, right? It was helpful for people like me that does not have an LGS to go and buy product from, because then, right, if you don't have an LGS to buy product from, you're, as many of you know, you're going to be looking on the internet. You're going to be trying to find any stores. You're going to go on Facebook and try to buy from people. So JKTCG had a big market, I would say, and they were able to, secure that market by the pricing. They also sold singles, like I said, and what happened then was they have a price guide. Because they sold singles, they were able to price out all the cards. And what ended up happening was people were using this site as the main price guide. So they weren't using like TCG Player, because TCG Player didn't have Weiss all the time. But JKTCG was around. And again, one of the reasons why, so at this 4620, you'll hear them talk about why they were a price guide. Again, it was more because when new players got into the game, as it could have been you might have been trying to find product or prices on anything you open. You're like, I got this fancy card, how much is it worth? And you have no clue. So JKTCG filled in that role. Right? So that's what they did for the community. That, again, they sold product, and at the same time, they were our price guide. What people would use them for is, like, say this card. It's a promo card. It's me. I'm gonna make it up and say it's $10. It's easier that way. People would go on Facebook and say, let's JKTCG minus 10, 15, 20%. So it could have been like, instead of $10, people would price it at $8 to $9.50. Right? There you go. So that's the main use of it. One of the reasons why people complained about JKTCG was there was a huge conflict of interest. JKTCG, if you think about it, was a place that sold singles and a place that sold booster boxes, but they also controlled the pricing. So if you think about, if you let the store control the price, they could change prices to manipulate things. And again, I'm not saying they did that. I mean, he addresses that in the video itself. So again, go out to the video and watch it for yourself. He addresses that very sentiment, and like his explanation makes a whole lot of sense about what actually occurred with pricing. Okay, so here we are. How did JKTCG price? And you could see the answer to that at the 1 hour, 4 minute, and 27-second mark. So again, they sold singles, they sold sealed product, but they also sold play sets. And what they did was, back in the day before this huge market run up, play sets were worth $350. And what he would do is price them by splitting that $350 over mainly the useful cards, the double rares, the rares, uncommons. As we know, there's some not so good double rares. So when I say split over the useful ones, I literally means the one that have use. The ones that actually people will collect because it just looks good. So they would split it over all those different cards and end up with $350. Let's say a case is $900. So from normal sets like Data Live where you have 10 double rares, that would mean you would be able to make 2 play sets from a 16 case booster boxes. So you'll be able to get 2. So that gives you $700 right there. If we say a case is $900, which I know it's not, it's lower than that, right? It's lower. But then you would make it up with the rest of the shiny cards like SRs, triple rares, and also SPs. So that's how they came about the pricing. And when they did that, then they would update those singles on their site to make it equal that, right? So that's how we ended up with our prices. Later on, when the big whole collector movement came in, play sets were $300 because SPs went up in price. So you justified that case price by then lowering play sets and as the SPs went up. So what he explained in that video was he had prices higher normally because he wanted others to undercut, like what I said earlier before. This card here, he would put at $10, and people then can come in and sell it for 15% less. Still make money, still be able to open the boxes, the case, and still make money. So they were your high-end pricing guide. At least it gives you like some level where you can price it at so that you can come in and sell it for lower. That sound familiar? What is TCG Player? So think about it this way. Who actually sets the prices on TCG Player? All right, think about that one. JKTCG was a store that literally set the prices. And in there, they had inventory. You could see 3 cards left. And when the card dropped away, when someone bought it, it went to 2, to 1, to 0, right? TCG Player is made up of random people that come together and sell items, right? I could be selling items, you could be selling items. What is that? That's an actual market, right? Where JKTCG if you think about it, artificially set a price on a card. They said this card was worth $10. This could have been the most worthless card in the world, but I could put a price of $10 on it, and people then will be like, well, if I discount at 20, well, the price is $8. I could sell it for $8. Is that truly a market? Like, think about that. If I artificially put this at $10 and you go sell it for $8, isn't the real price of the item $8? Or would you rather have the $10 price? Okay, so think about it this way. TCG Player is made up of a bunch of individuals who are setting prices. And again, those people are all undercutting each other and all that. But at the same time, we now have a history of what people will buy it for. So people will buy it on there for $8, this card. So to me, we can price this on TCG Player for $8, and we know it's $8. Where, again, our price guide, JKTCG, says it's $10, but it won't sell for $10, right? So truly, who had the more accurate pricing? Was it JKTCG or was it TCG Player? I'm going to show you something because this bothered me. There is somebody on Facebook that was selling these boxes. And again, it ticks me off when people like attack another person. You know what? It's his boxes. He can do whatever he wants, right? Like, why do you got to harass people? I don't get it. So this is from TCG Player. I deleted the person's name that is actually selling it. Obviously, you could go on TCG Player and find it. It doesn't matter. So what does matter is, again, TCG Player added these latest sale history. So again, if you think about what I said about what a market is, it is a bunch of individuals that sell product. If the market does not like it, they will not buy it at that price. If other people have that product, they will come in there and undercut this person right here, right? Because they either just want to sell it for lower or don't think that 125 is worth it. And again, on my market update, I said 125 is not worth it. So don't come to me saying that you're trying to say this is $125. I'm telling you this is not $125. Do not buy Kaguya for $125. Okay, there you go. But there are people out there in the world, right, that time is money, or they're not very good at looking things up on the internet, that they're just going to go to TCG Player and buy something that they want. So if you take a look here at the sales history, what do we got? We got two sales of $128 and another one of $125. That was on 6/16 and 6/19. So again, TCG Player has been nice enough to add these history in there. You could have always seen it all this time by looking at if you open a seller's account and seeing what it last sold for. But if you didn't do that, now you can. You know, they have this listing. There's full transparency here, right? So at the very least, people are buying these on the 9th for $100. On the 10th, they bought it for $90. Another one for $90. So on Facebook, it was hilarious because people are like, you know, there's no sign cards on this thing. It should be worth 60. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what you think it is worth. It is what people will pay for it, right? Because again, that's what a market is. How much I'm going to pay for it. I might not want to pay $150 to go to a Green Day concert. I think that's overpriced. I'm not saying that. I like Green Day. But there might be somebody else that is willing to pay $150. So I cannot say truthfully that ticket's not $150 because somebody else is willing to pay $150 for it. It's just you don't want to pay for it at $150, or I don't want to pay for it at $150. You don't want to pay for Kaguya at $125 because you have this thought in your mind that it's not worth it that much. But guess what? There's other people in the world that will pay for it. Right? Like, there's other people in the world that will pay $90 a box for both free. There's other people in the world that will pay, what's another one? $200 for ReZero. They will. Right? And unfortunately, there's nobody else that's selling it for under that price. And if there are, other people will just buy it. So I'll have another example. Here's one. Beautiful Princess Nabe. If you looked at my market update, I talked about this one. And this one's an interesting one because it is $17, right? Because with shipping. Um, $17. And again, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying to you, the viewer, that this card is worth $17. It is not worth $17. And if you pay $17, that is your own fault. Again, on my market update, I told you, go on the internet, type English Weiss singles, put this card in, and more than likely, you will find a website that is not selling this for $17. And when I say more than likely, you will not find it. You will find a website that is not selling this for $17. They will be selling it for a lot lower. So if you want this card, go find that website. As you can see, what happened here was straight up somebody bought a whole lot of these on May 9th. There you go. I don't know why on May 11th someone bought it at 14 and then on May 16th they bought it for $3, but what ended up happening was somebody went and cleared out a whole lot of these on May 9th. They did that with an albedo too. And I talk about that in that video. All right, so again, do I think these things are worth $17? I do not. I think they're like 5, 6-ish at best. And again, if you go on that website, the other website, you'll be able to buy it, right? Again, so what is TCG Player doing here in this instance? It is filling the role of JKTCG, right? So what you have here is a site that will give you a price of how much the card is worth, by, it's not the site doing it again, it's people putting it up. You're able to look at the price history and come up with a conclusion. And also you're able to go out onto the internet, this big place that, this giant place filled with all these stores, or on Facebook with people that will sell possibly the same card. And you're able to, buy certain things from there. So again, what I am saying is, I don't think anybody's, well, outside of this person on May 11th, I don't think the majority of people are looking to buy this card at $17. I think this is straight up manipulation that took place here, or they wanted it for their deck. I don't know. But again, this TCG Player is doing what JKTCG did, is basically giving you a reference of a price now that we have these sales history. And from there, you can figure out how much you want to pay for it, right? So again, even though you don't like this Kaguya price, there are people that do, that want to buy it for that price. Okay, the last part I want to talk about is pricing of cards and boxes and all that in general. So now that we know that there are references to buy, for prices, we got JKTCG, now gone, and it's TCG Player. So the last thing in that video, not last thing, because this is only 41 minutes in, I'm going to read it to you. There is one thing that a lot of people don't understand or discount or don't see. A lot of people mistaken Weiss Schwarz as a TCG first and then a collectible second, which is a lot of other card games. Like Magic is a TCG first, Pokemon mostly a TCG first, and then a collector second. Whereas Weiss Schwarz is way more, even if it's not the first, the collector pie that it takes out of the chart is way bigger than any other TCG. How many times have you seen people getting this game just because XYZ anime is in it? So he also talks about how people keep these cards forever, right? Like, so there's going to be certain cards that you have that you're going to keep forever. And what I've been seeing a lot lately is people saying that double rares are being all bought out and SPs are going up. Again, it's certain SPs that are going up. As I pointed out, the Magia record ones, even with the signs on it, they're like $70 and nobody wants it. It's like the Yachio. Nobody wants Yachio at $7. No one bought on TCG Player the TDSPs of Magia Record Mobile. It's It's just been sitting there. Well, actually, no, that was the anime set. So nobody wants those. Nobody wants any of them. And again, because they are specifically looking at certain SPs, people are looking at specifically double rares, right? So again, it's not all double rares, and it's so my main point to this is we have more people coming to the game. You have collectors, investors, and maybe some players, right? And what they're going to do is go back and try to buy some of these things because they want it. They might want it because they might want to play with it, or they might want it to keep it. Because again, during this pandemic, how many people are you thinking are actually playing this game? How many LGSs have you heard people talk about that say, I don't have an LGS? Like me, I don't have an LGS, I have nowhere to play, so I'm just collecting these cards there because they're the anime that I like. So a lot of these cards are being scooped up because the sheer fact is people want the cards for whatever reason. It's the main the double R's themselves aren't really being scooped up and flipped. Some are, right? Some are, but I would say the majority of them are being held on by people. So you really can't blame new people coming in or investors because that's not what's happening here. And I do have a video, or I actually have a podcast basically of a reseller that talks through this, why he doesn't buy double rares. He specifically does not buy double rares. He's looking at SPs. Okay, so maybe there's some other people that are doing it to resell, but I think the double rares is really limited to collector type people. And again, I said majority. It's collector type people or people that just need it for their decks. Because these double R's were being, if you haven't noticed, they were being bought up before this big investor rush. I noticed it. Some people didn't, but that's what was actually happening with double rares. They were being bought up before this rush. It was being bought up by people that knew this game, right? Because I remember the big joke back then was, hey, since Rudy told everybody, hopefully they buy Mob Psycho and stuff like that. Can you tell me why Aqua was going up in price? How did these clueless people that are new to this know to buy the Aqua when there is all these other sets out there, right? It only makes sense that the people that were actually doing this were people that had knowledge of the game. It wasn't the people like the Alpha Investments crowd. It doesn't make sense that way. So, last thing, we're going to talk about limitations on product and adaptation. So even though, there's this whole reselling a product of cards and all of that, it's going to end. It's not going to last forever. I know it won't last forever. You know how? Because just think about it this way. Those Attack on Titan boxes, those ReZero boxes, all the stuff that is out there that is left is being bought out. You have to ask yourself again, who's buying them and what they're doing with it, right? If it's a reseller, yeah, they may be taking it and selling it at a higher price, but whose hand is it ultimately landing in? Is it landing in the hands of another reseller, collector, right? Those products will eventually dry up. You're not going to have that problem anymore. You might have the problem where you go, I can't find this anymore. But those reseller days are slowly ending, right? There's only so many of these cheap SPs that became high, like the sought after ones. They're going to run out eventually because, again, they're going to end up in somebody's hands that's not going to sell them anymore, right? It's just going to end. And then we get to the new product. When we get to new product, we all know as people that have been in it for some time that you got to pre-order these things. But if you pre-order them outside of Data Live, if you pre-order them, you're probably going to get it. When we talk about English, you're probably going to get that box as long as you pre-order it. If you don't, again, the boxes still exist. Both free sold out, but look, it's $90. I'm not saying $90 is cheap, but at the same time, it still exists. So I think we all need to get to the point where, you know what, this is how it is now. There are people that have looked at this game for whatever reason, have bought into the game, collected into the game, or bought just to resell. But again, those days are eventually going to end. People will get used to this new product and buying it, and there's not going to be as many opportunities to resell the new product because as long as people know that they need to pre-order, this cycle of people just flipping boxes, people flipping SPs and all of that, it'll eventually run out. And I think as a community, we'll eventually get there to say that, hey, even though TCG Player has crazy prices like this Nabe, as long as you are able to take this price and use it as another reference point. Again, you can't just use it like you did with JKTCG where you're like, this is the end all be all price. You use this price to make an informed decision and look at elsewhere for other prices, and then with that, then you're supposed to do that. Then you come up with an actual price. Unfortunately, it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna take some time, and that's true with any game, right? You're not just gonna go. I would hope so, anyways. You're not just gonna go to TCG Player. You might go to Troll and Toad. You might go somewhere else. There's so many references of singles prices out there, places where you can get sealed product. It's just a little bit more work. And I know that's not what you want to hear, and change is difficult, but we will get there. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions again, feel free to write below. There's other people out there that are just as knowledgeable or even more so than me. So feel free to write down there and somebody will write back. Again, if you have anything you want to say to me in private, my email is in the about. Feel free to do so. All right, everybody, have a good one.